Okay guys, today we're going to go through the Nox 9. We're going to do a disassembly of the Nox 9 field strip, and then we're going to go to a clean of where to clean, how to clean, what we recommend. As you can see, I got a couple of pieces, my wire brush and a little bit of brake cleaner, just stuff that we use in-house to help with getting the carbon off of our DLC barrels and just make this gun look really nice at all times. So what I want to do today is just start by disassembly. So on the 1911, obviously we have our slide stop here. You can see ours is very flush on this model. We've done a really good job of machining. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to really easily use a punch. Sometimes we use a plastic bullet, but you got to be really careful not to mishap and push through or mar up your barrel. I'm going to go really easy, and generally sometimes I don't even actually use it at all. I use my finger, but this one's really flush, so sometimes I can't get to start. So generally what I do is I'll start by taking the gun, put it in my left hand, and I'll just put my thumb behind the beaver tail safety, index finger in front of the optic, and I'll pull that back to about where it needs to be with our lineup hole here. And then I'll just press on there and see if I can feel it. And obviously I can't right now. So I'm just going to push back. I'm going to find that spot that makes sense, and I'm going to pop it through. I'm actually going to do this, push it right where I want it to be. Right there's my spot. I'm going to push this through. You gotta kind of feel it. There you go. So basically we've taken that. Now, one of the things on this video you may see, and I've seen a couple of guys, these are some of our first production models that we sent out for photography and for review. But you see these little machining marks on this slide stop. This isn't how our production's going to be. Our slide stop actually, we actually have taken this and redone it and bead blasted it so that this is a very good finish, and you won't see no tool marks on production models. But so this is our slide stop DLC. Billet slide stop, and then once you do that, the gun is actually able to be torn apart. So we're going to pull this apart, and like I say, this gun has been shot and it is filthy. So we're going to get in there and clean all that here just in a minute. So what we have here is a two-piece guide rod sitting with our barrel. Now this barrel here, if any of you guys out there are looking or have the eye for it, this is a threaded on comp onto a threaded barrel, and our production model is actually going to be integrally together. So our barrel and our comp are all going to be one piece, machined out of one piece. So what we're doing here is we're going to push this forward, basically a one-piece toolless guide rod. So we're going to push this forward and get that comp to come up and out of our barrel spot. So you use your thumb here, push that down and get it out of lockup, and everything should slide forward. Nice and easy. Get out of lockup, buddy. I'm going to pull forward. I'm going to push down on my toolless guide rod right here. You can see there's a button. You push down, and what that does is allows the spring to then be put together. And then what I do, you can see how dirty this gun is, thanks to my guys out there running it. But basically we have our toolless guide rod with our barrel bushing, and we're going to set that off to the side. And this one over here is really dirty. So look how filthy this gun is. So once you do that, you got your barrel link here. The barrel link needs to be pressed down so it can slide through. And we're going to pull that up out of lockup, and we're going to pull our barrel out of our firearm. You can see the DLC is awesome. It does a great job of, you can basically wipe most of this stuff off. It's just nasty. But this here is your barrel and your comp all together. So that's the disassembly. So we had our slide stop, we had our barrel, and then the gun has come apart. That is the disassembled field stripped version of the Nox 9. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it and I'm going to kind of just go through some of the cleaning stuff that we use or that we recommend. This gun's been shot a lot. It's very dirty. It's filthy inside. It actually runs really well, even though it's dirty. But we like to keep our things nice. So one of the things that we start to do is obviously the barrel, and we get a lot of questions about this. Being a ported barrel, this carbon buildup happens, and You can kind of scratch it off sometimes, and sometimes you can't. So what we recommend is just some standard brake parts cleaner. Nothing crazy. It isn't going to hurt the finish of the DLC or the PVD. So I'm going to take this off camera over a trash can here because it gets dirty, and I'm just going to spray a little bit of brake cleaner on here. And then what I do is I just take my wire brush and I just really hit it real easy. I'm just going to take it real easy. I don't want to try to mar it up or anything, but I just want to take it nice and easy on there. You can see it's trying to get off there. You got to go easy, easy, easy. I'm going to take a little bit more brake cleaner. And then what I do is I'm going to take my rag and I'm going to start wiping this thing down, figure out where I have some space left to clean. You can see that DLC is cleaning up really, really nice. And our barrels to come are actually going to be, I don't know how many people have done this, but we're going to actually DLC the front comp part, and we're still going to be able to PVD the color in the back here. So I got just a little bit more. Okay, so I got that pretty clean. You can see there's just a little bit of space there. That's good to go. But this gun has cleaned up really well. You can see I still have a little bit on there. But I just take the gun and I take the barrel and I wipe it down really well. Make sure I got all the carbon buildup off all the spots that need to look good and clean up really well. So that's the barrel. Then I'll take my slide. And you see there's, you know, oil and a bunch of stuff in there. I'll take that and wipe it down. Make sure all my parts pieces are cleaned up, and if it gets really dirty up in there, I'll take some brake cleaner and add, you know, just get the carbon buildup done. But I'm going to take that and I'm just going to take that slide, wipe it down real well, make sure there's no I got a little bit of orange on there, dang it. Make sure that that's all taken care of. And then the frame itself, this is pretty easy. Generally it's a steel frame, so I usually just kind of run my fingers through there, make sure that everything's taken care of on the, you know, the rails and the where the disconnect is, making sure everything is just nice and tight and cleaned up with no more carbon or you know, brass or anything in there that would be, you know, from the shooting the firearm. So I cleaned all this up, I wiped it all down, we're good to go. So that's how I recommend cleaning up the Nox 9. And the other thing is taking this apart. So this is supposed to be, you know, pretty oily, lubed up. It's, you know, it's where everything kind of runs on the spring. I'll take this apart, wipe it all down nice and clean, and then I don't generally use any of the brake cleaner up front because I want that to be, you know, I want that to stay lubricated. So that's kind of how I do it, is I'll push this down, I'll pull this whole thing apart, and I'll wipe it all down with my rag. Get it all taken care of here, you can see. So wipe it all down with my rag, wipe my barrel bushing, set that in there, and then I'll just take a quick once over on the springs. They get dirty, but they're hard to clean, so I'll just do that. Oops, sorry, dropped it. And that's a fully disassembled and cleaned Nox 9. Okay, so now I'm going to reassemble. So basically what we do is it's really important to kind of go step by step backwards the way that we took it apart, and while we're going through that system, making sure we're hitting a little bit of oil. We use Lucas gun oil. It's been done really well for us on our firearms. We think it lasts well, and it has good lubricity, but it doesn't get gummy. So the first thing that I generally do is I reassemble my my barrel bushing. So I put the flat end. You see they got a flat end of a spring. I'm going to put the flat end into the bushing so it seats properly. And then I'm going to push my toolless one-piece guide rod back in there. Now my hands, you can obviously see everything's oiled up and going to be slippery, so you got to be really careful. But basically what we're trying to do is to get this and this little spot right here past the front of the barrel bushing. So I'm going to hold this as tight as I can. I'm going to push that through, and you see how they both came out. I'm going to push up on that, and there you go. that's holding everything together. It's all together. So you see my saddle on my guide rod and my saddle on my bushing, they're matched up. Just be careful if you're spinning those around, because you can push that little piece in right there and that will shoot it to the left here, if we're not careful. So you just got to be careful there. I put a little bit of oil on this when I reassemble, making sure I get a little bit of oil down in these, there's a spring and some pins, so I just put a little bit of oil in there just to make sure everything's nice and clean and function for the next time I got to take it apart. And then for the assembly, I just put a little bit here and there. And then the next thing that we do is we're going to set that off to the side, and we're going to grab our slide. We're going to grab our slide, and then we're going to take it, and I'm going to put it upside down so I can get some oil on it. I'm going to take it and I'm going to hit my rails, and then I'm going to hit my deck right here, and this is where my disconnector slips and slides, so that's a really important part for coming out of battery. So I put that thing there, and then I'll hit these lugs in here. I'll just put a little bit of oil in there, but more of it, I'm going to get some oil on it and a little bit later when I put the barrel back up into the gun and get it totally put together. But that's what I lube up on the slide. Now that I got my slide upside down here and I've lubricated everything, I'm going to take my barrel. And the barrel has got an easy way to put it together, but it can get confusing sometimes. So your link needs to be up to start, and then we're going to put it, I guess we're going to need to put it down to start to be able to slide it in, and then we're going to need to put the link up to get our toolless guide rod back in the system. So I'm going to put it down, and the reason we do that is because if we have it up and it's up when we try to put it in, it's going to hit the dust cover and it's going to get bind together. So we want to lay that down so we got plenty of space. We're going to slide that in, let it go into lockup, and then we're going to slide our link back forward. We're going to bring our toolless guide rod that has our spring compressed with the saddle down. We want to lay that back in there nice and easy. And you got to be careful to push here, because if you push on this part right here, it'll actually deactivate that little pin that's holding everything together, and it'll slide apart. So you got to be careful. What I like to do is not touch that. I push my thumb up on the barrel just to get it out of lockup, and then I'll pull on the comp forward just a little bit to get it going. Once I can grab onto the front of the toolless guide rod, that's kind of what I use to do the rest of the work real easy, because the harder, if I push on this and something gets stuck in there, it'll deactivate the pin holding everything together. So you just kind of go easy. One of the things you got to remember is there's a saddle inside here, or like a little ledge that this has to be into. So sometimes it wants to go in at an angle, and if you have it at an angle, you're going to hit that ledge. It's going to get really frustrating. So I always try to grab the front of the guide rod and pull it down towards the dust cover, and that will lift it up enough to let it slide in there nice and neat. So now we have this fully engaged. Our barrel's just kind of in there hanging out right now, but we're going to pull that back. But I can take my finger and push against the spring, and it lets go of that little lever right there, and it's going to put the spring into place, and then that's going to push us back into lockup. So now where we went from down and then back up to get this in here, and now we're going to go back to a middle position, and that's going to allow us to put the firearm back together. So we take it now, and everything's been lubricated up. We'll grab our frame, and we're going to slide this right back on here. I always put my thumb on this to push it against the barrel, and then I keep my link perfectly centered there. So basically what we're going to have is when we slide this back on here, we want this link to show up in this hole, and sometimes it can get cockeyed like this, and then it's hard to find it to where our pin won't go in, and it will start to hit that part. So we try to keep it nice and lined up so that when we slide it in there, just as it gets on the gun, we can just kind of look through that hole, and I'll try to do my best to show you, but that's going to allow you to see that hole perfect, and then we're going to put our slide stop in there, and that's what's going to hold everything together. So we're going to try that right now. So I'm pushing up here just to make sure it doesn't fall out of place. Get everything lined up on my, man, it feels so good whenever that tolerance is so tight. So I got a little bit of pressure. I'm just going to get it back on. Oh, my safety's up. There we go. And if you can see on camera, I'm going to do my best. If you look through this, you can see that little area right there. And the goal is to make it to where our slide stop goes right into that hole, and right now it's not there, but I'm just going to move it around, and there you go, it fell right into place. So the slide stops in its place just like that. And then what we like to do is, if you see there's a plunger in here, and that's what you're going to be that's your pressure, what you're putting your pressure against. And on the back side of our slide stop, if you got to be careful because you can mar up your aluminum here if you don't put this too close. So I always like to leave it up and kind of out away from the gun. But this part right here will actually slide up against that plunger. So we always want to get this to go in at an angle. And what we usually teach at the shop is we'll push in here, get it right where we want it. And then you can see, I'm going to use my little pin here. This part right here needs to match this back part of this aluminum, or not aluminum, this billet safety or billet slide stop. That slides in there. See that little moon shape right there? This moon shape has to slide in there, but we also have to get past that plunger. So right now I'm going to mar up my slide in my frame. So I'm going to actually pull that up and out a little bit, and then I'm just going to take a little bit of thumb pressure once I get that moon shape in there. Perfect. And I'm just going to push up a little bit. Oh, missed it. Come on, buddy. I'm going to push up on it, and wow, push up on it. It's hard to do it slow. Push up in it, and you see it perfectly fit into the moon shape. I'm going to push it all the way in, and the gun is now fully operational. I didn't hit my frame or my grip, and we are back in business. So the last thing that I like to do is just make sure that the gun's wiped down really well. I take it, and one of the things that I do is I'll pull this back, and with it being poured and comped, I'll drop a little bit of oil here on my lugs. I'll drop some in here, and then I'll hit this back spot here on my rails. Just a little bit of extra. Work it in nice and neat. And then I always, when I'm doing range days, because it gets so filthy, I put it up here on this barrel hood to help with my DLC. And then, like we talked earlier, I always just put, like, this actually is a good spot to have it for lubrication. But this part here, because it's recessed, it actually doesn't need it for it. But what I like to do it for is almost like putting Rain-X on your windshield. It's going to give you a little bit of help whenever you're going to clean it the next time, or at the range whenever you're trying to wipe that down. So that's the Nox 9, totally cleaned, reassembled. She's oily, and you gotta be careful using microfibers. We learned that sometimes these microfibers get caught up in some of these little designs that we've done, so just got to kind of be careful. You don't notice it until you do high-res photography, but it's one of the best things to use to get you going. So right there is a fully disassembled, cleaned, cleaning recommended, and reassembled Nox 9. We're ready to take this thing back out to the range and knock it out of the park. So thanks for your business, and hope this helped to show kind of how we do things at Jacob Grey and what we recommend.